back to Cinematic. I'm Ryan, and I'm back. It's been a few, I feel like. Didn't do one last week. Gonna do one this week. Gonna talk about The Legend of Fong Sai-Yuk, which I think in the States was actually even just The Legend, if that tells you anything. But the reason this ended up on my list is probably like 90% Corey Ewan, I would say. Big fan of his movies, the ones I've seen at the least. I have not seen all of them. But if I'm like going through the list of Hong Kong action and I see it has like at least two people that I'm a big fan of, I'm like, oh, them together? I've got to watch this one. So this one had Jet Li in it. And it's not like you don't hear about it. So it was a for sure. But it's kind of a roller coaster, I'm going to be honest. And I think that was in no small part due to myself. I started watching this before I left for Seattle to go to PAX, and then came back and watched the second half basically post vacation, you know, where like you kind of wish you were still on vacation the whole time. So grain of salt and all that. I think I was in a very strange headspace throughout this thing. So I'm going to take you on that trip with me this week. The Legend of Fong Sai-Yuk is the second Fong Sai-Yuk movie that I've talked about. The first was the third in the 36th Chamber trilogy, The Disciples of the 36th Chamber. And Fong Sai-Yuk's I talked a little bit about this in that episode. You can go back and listen to it. But another Chinese folk hero, kind of like Wong Fei-hung. In fact, although it does appear that there's less, I guess, facts about Fong Sai-Yuk, if he was real, is I guess the clincher there. If he was real, then there's a chance some of his martial arts techniques did contribute to the Hangga movement, like Wong Fei-hung. I will say, I do think The Disciples of the 36th Chamber is a better movie than this. And I don't think that's a controversial opinion either, would be my guess, again, as uninformed as I often am. There are some character similarities between the movies. In the character of Fong Sai-Yuk, he's kind of a brash troublemaker kid in both of them who has a strong connection with his mom. In fact, both movies, his mother is played by a very strong female lead. It was Lily Lee in the 36th Chamber movies, like we talked about. Here it's Josephine Xiao, who I don't think we've watched anything with her yet. She's been in a fair few amount of movies before this point, but just another fantastic presence and strong action heroine, I will say. And one like I feel like I haven't seen in this series for some time, maybe even since The Disciples of the 36th Chamber, which means I'm glossing over somebody. Okay, wait, hold on. I got the list right here. Oh, Police Story 3 had Michelle Yeoh. She is kind of and probably hates to hear this because I bet they competed for roles. She's a little bit of a Michelle Yeoh-like. I think she was also a dancer. When I went to look up some footage of her, there's a lot of her dancing in a lot of different YouTube videos even. It's super cool. She seems amazing. I'm looking forward to more movies with her in it. So she's great. She essentially bails out Fong Sai-Yuk after he gets in trouble for defending a girl. So it's kind of like, yeah, he's a troublemaker, but it's always for the right reasons. But this is also where I will say the first dip in the roller coaster maybe happens here, because so she bails out Fong Sai-Yuk for defending this girl because it escalates into a fight and he gets taken in, etc. And then when Fong Sai-Yuk's dad finds out, Josephine Xiao's, what is her character's name actually? Miu Chui Fa, which I didn't look up the pronunciation ahead of time, so please. She essentially bails him out. The dad finds out and beats them. He beats him up. Like, she's got bruises all over her face. And it's not that that's, like, obviously, you know, that can happen in a movie and we can say things about it and stuff like that. It's that the movie's kind of playful about it. This one is. Like, that night she's still mad at the dad and he's like, you still mad about that? Come here. And they kiss and make up, I guess, or whatever. And I know it's all wrapped up in like time and place and culture and stuff like that, but it doesn't make it any less off-putting in the moment. So that might have been like a small hump to get over there at the beginning, especially since those characters are the reason I am into this movie as much as I am at this point. Like Jet Li obviously plays a great Fong Sai-Yuk, but Josephine Xiao, like I said, also very strong and capable female presence in the movie. In fact, a local jerk, let's say, Tiger Liu, sets up this competition where whoever bests his wife, played by Sybil who is an accomplished martial artist. It's very strange because for every like strong female role in this movie, there's like another thing that you're like we've got Josephine Xiao who gets beat, and we've got Sybil who is like a fantastic martial artist, but is taking place in this competition that he sets up wherein the winner gets to wed his daughter, like his daughter's the prize. So Jet Li joins the competition, even though he doesn't know at the time that the daughter that's up for grabs, Ting Ting, played by Michelle Reese, is the girl he defended and fell in love with at the beginning of the movie. But during that competition with Sybil who, by the way, I don't think is essentially known for her martial arts. Like, we've seen her in a few movies so far, and I don't think she's like a martial artist in any of those. She's more often than not kind of a fun character, but at best kind of a damsel maybe for Jackie Chan in Ho. Okay, I'm either thinking of My Lucky Stars or Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars or The Inspector Wears Skirts. Inspector Wears Skirts 2, which I haven't actually seen. She's been in a lot and great in a lot. Here, my point being, is that she's especially great at the kung fu, at the action choreography that she's given. And in that fight with her and Jet Li, Ting Ting, the daughter that's up for grabs, is like, I'm sick of this, and takes off. And that daughter is replaced with a servant who's ugly, apparently. She might have like a fake mole on her face, you know, like a hairy, I don't know. And Jet Li gets a look at this and throws the match for that reason. So his mom steps in, posing as a man, and in besting Sybil they fall in love, or Sybil maybe more so with Josephine Xiao's character, to the point where it's kind of dueling romantic comedies at that point, because like I said, Jet Li doesn't know that the girl that was up for grabs was the girl he saved at the beginning, but he's later arrested and forced to take his prize of that girl, which he doesn't know. In fact, they actually meet and have this thing where they still don't know, like I forget, I think the room is dark and they bump around, and this is meanwhile while the wife, the mom, is meeting with Sybil Who's character also. So again, I have no idea where this movie is going for a good 40 minutes at least. And that's basically where I stopped watching because I had to go to PAX. So kind of mixed feelings at that point, but the exact spot where I stopped it, and I even grabbed the still from it that I'll throw up right now, is this moment where when I came back and saw it, I think it finally clicked. I was like, oh, maybe I'm just watching a delightful little romp. And then the very next scene, the Red Flower Society stuff finally picks up. And what am I talking about? I haven't even mentioned that yet because it's literally a less than 5 minute, it's not a stinger if it's at the beginning of the movie, is it? I don't know. Scene at the beginning where the emperor, who's a Han ruling as a Manchu, so kind of a traitor, has this recurring nightmare where a member of the Red Flower Society comes and assassinates him. So he sends out his governor, played by Vincent Chow, who we'll talk about in a second, to root them out and kill them all. And then we don't hear about it for, again, 45 minutes. And by the way, I did try and look up the Red Flower Society to see if that was an actual thing. I don't think it was. I think they just tweaked White Lotus Society, which was traditionally, what do we talk about that for? Once upon a time in China too, right? Didn't they figure in larger there? A rebel troop of sorts, and that's how the Red Flower Society is represented here. Why does that matter? Because it turns out Fong Sai-Yuk's dad is like a lieutenant in the Red Flower Society. He's some higher up. He has a list of names of all the members of the Red Flower Society. He has the knock list for the Red Flower Society. So Vincent Chow really, in fact, what's his character's name? Governor, according to his literal credit on the Hong Kong movie database. Let's go to the IMDb. governor of Kaoman. Okay, I don't know that helped. The governor, Vincent Chow, is out for blood. And for an actor that, again, Hong Kong Movie Database says this is his first movie, he's great. I had to look up what he went on to do after this, and no surprise, he actually ended up taking Jet Li's place as Wong Fei-hung in the Once Upon a Time in China movies after Jet Li left. So 4 and 5, which by all accounts are not as good as 1, 2, and I haven't seen 3. But I don't know. Maybe Vincent Chow himself is good in them. Because again, he's great here. And I'd say the centerpiece fight in this movie, you know, the one, if you look it up, is the one between him and Jet Li when they meet up for the first time. And Chow very much holds his own against Jet Li. But I will say, this goes for the rest of the Kung Fu in the film, it's not an entirely technical affair. It's a bit of a mix, which is not to say that there isn't obviously some technicality on display. Again, Jet Li is in this movie. But there's also a lot of flash because, again, Corey Yuen directed this movie. So there's plenty of wire work. And I know because I can see the wires, which if ever there was a Corey Yuen signature, that might be it right there. You can see the wires and not care is also an essential part of that, I would say. You can see the wires and you don't care. So there's a lot to suggest a fantastical Kung Fu fight when it's not a technical showcase like you would get from maybe a Jackie or a Sammo or a Corey Yuen movie. Not that he hasn't done that before and doesn't do it again here some as well, but he's also not afraid to throw everything at the screen, it seems, and keep it. Because why not? I think a Corey Yuen movie has way more why not moments than your average Hong Kong action movie across the board, right? I'm also including the script in that. The action is a nice complement to the continuing insanity, let's say, as they try and hide from the governor. So they're like, well, let's hide at Tiger Liu's house, the father of Ting Ting, the girl that he gets married to, that's also kind of a jerk. Because they're like, this would be the last place that the governor would think to look for us. But it's not, because he immediately does, because he's invited to the wedding as the governor. So all hell breaks loose. Sybil Hu is shot and, spoiler, dies. The dad is captured. They hang one of Sai-Yuk's friends, Bo, I believe is his name. And all within 5 minutes. Like, it really feels like they are just shoving you into the third act as quickly as possible, because then Fong Sai-Yuk gets to have this incredibly heroic battle where he, I think with just a rope, takes out an entire contingent of guards with his friend on his back. Like his friend was hung, so he brings him down, ties him to his back, and just wrecks shop. It's great, but I don't think it reaches the highs that I think it's going for, because it is happening so fast. And that goes for the entire third act of the film, when Fong Sai-Yuk heads out to rescue his father, knock list in hand. Fong Sai-Yuk has it at this point because the governor wants it, and then he'll give him his dad back, etc. But there's this exchange between the both of them where the governor's like, I'm doing this for the money, and Fong Sai-Yuk's like, this isn't about the money, it's about freedom for China. And I'm like, okay, if you say it is, I will believe you, and I do take your word for it, but I don't think the movie's necessarily earned that over the course of the runtime, certainly up until this point. And I'm sure some of that goes back to the style over substance stuff that I was talking about earlier, but I also don't know if Corey Yuen is the movie with a message guy. Like, spoiler alert, one of the reasons I was terribly excited to talk about Corey Yuen is that he would go on to direct the Transporter movies, at least Transporter 1. And those are just like, there's no message necessarily, except Jason Statham is cool to those movies. And I think that tracks with all of his movies I've seen so far, from Corey Yuen, which again, I haven't seen all of them, but it's not so much about the message as it is about, check this out. Kind of like I talked about with the Once Upon a Time in China movies. In fact, I wonder how much of this was me coming at these movies from that perspective, because again, those movies, loved them, and they very much you can have your cake and eat it too there. Like we see a lot of the same low angles and needle drops that we see in Fong Sai-Yuk, we see in the Once Upon a Time in China movies, but that also managed to say something about Chinese identity at the turn of the century, you know, with all the Western influences and encroaching modernity, all that stuff. The Legend of Fong Sai-Yuk is mostly cake, a bunch of good-looking cake that maybe makes a pretense at eating it, but doesn't quite, for me, get there. It gets close. I think in the last 5 minutes, there's this bit where the dad is in a guillotine and Fong Sai-Yuk is holding onto the rope that is keeping the blade from chopping his dad's head off. And they have this exchange where his dad's like, it's okay, let me go, I did it, you know, we've done it, whatever, like we can do this. And then the crowd joins in, you know, symbolically as well to help Fong Sai-Yuk, and again, because the Red Flower Society is this rebel troop. And Josephine Xiao comes to save the day as well, like she figures into the ending. So it's a great moment, it's a great ending, and maybe I don't understand all of it, but I think also maybe there's not much there to understand is my bigger takeaway. Again, it's more of a romp. Go have fun with a romp. And like a classically scrappy Corey Yuen film. And maybe the scrappiest yet, because Jet Li is like a little too old to play a kid, just about. Like I said, you can see the wires from time to time. And forget doubling, like I know I talked about, or did I not talk about that? I noticed there was some doubling going on for the Once Upon a Time in China movies where I'm like, why isn't Jet Li doing that? He can very much do that. I found out after the fact that he had some back issues. I think, Mitch, thank you for cluing me in on that. Not even the issue here. They just straight up use dummies from time to time. Like they throw one in the fire when a guy falls in the fire, very obviously a dummy. But also in that triumphant fight where he brings Bo down from hanging and straps him to his back. Like some of those shots, the thing strapped to his back, very obviously a dummy. It's like jerking around like when, you know, they throw a Muppet across the room instead of him being, you know, like attached to a hand in some way. And it's great there too. It's great here, like either way. It's also very cold through like at least half of this movie. Like you can see the actor's breath, which I guess I don't know how you would solve that necessarily. They have space heaters in 1993. So maybe you need like an extra helping of that suspension of disbelief that you should be pretty good at, I think, at this point anyway. It all still works, I think, is where I'm going. Surprise, surprise. But I think I'll skip the sequel, you know, probably not forever. You know, there's already a lot of movies I'm going to come back and check out. But for this series, I think we're good. I think next week we're going to go with, in fact, so we might wrap up a few movies if possible and just finish out the best of the best series, 2 and 3. And I think there's a 4th, but let's not get crazy. So I'm going to try and cross the best of the best off this particular list altogether by next week. And if not that, then Ring of Fire 2 is also on the docket. I wanted to get at least one Dawn the Dragon Wilson movie in there. I don't know if that's going to be it, but that's what I've tentatively planned. And then if things really go off the rails, we could be looking at American Ninja 5. Nothing like coming into a series at the 5th. Maybe. There could be like 3 subtitle movies. Yeah, there is. There's like an American Samurai. I don't know if it was before that though. So never a dull moment here on Cinematic. Thanks for hanging out. If you have, what a weird thing to say. You can find me on all the social places. I am very easy to get a hold of, actually. And if you really want to do the thing, I'm over on Patreon and Ko-Fi, where you can throw some money in the tip jar, and I appreciate it so much. And I put your name down, and it pops up at the end of these episodes.